The pressure. Oh my God. You guys are insane. Insane. Wow.
This project fell apart because of COVID twice, each time shrinking the budget as it went because this film was pre-sold. So all the budget that you have is all the budget you got. And twice we almost got it started, once in California, once in Canada, but both times it fell through. And so we finally found a way to bring it over to a little home called Austin and pulled out, well, believe it or not, pulled out a lot of our Red 11 tricks on this one.
This episode is brought to you by the best-selling book, Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, How to Turn Your Independent Film into a Money-Making Business. Learn more at filmbizbook.com.
I'd like to welcome to the show Racer Max and Rebel Rodriguez. How are you guys doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for this. Really excited.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. I am, as I was telling you before, obviously a lot of people who ever watched the show knows I'm a huge fan of your dad. But I'm also a fan of what you guys have been doing with him and seeing you grow, literally. Literally seeing you grow as filmmakers, as actors, as composers, as producers, as writers. It's been fascinating to see your guys' journey as well. So I have to ask you, my first question is, because everybody listening is going to want to know, what is it like growing up on movie sets? Like, I mean, the first movie set I walked onto was when I was in college, and that's not really a movie set. I mean, you were walking around with movie stars, who you were like, oh, that's just that person. What was it like for you two kind of growing up in this kind of environment? And I kind of protected environment as well, because, Elizabeth, your mom's been on the show as well. And I know how protective she's been with, to protect you from the less nice people in the industry.
For sure. Yeah. She was definitely the
Mama
curator
Bear.
and guardian, Mama Bear. That made it all, allowed us to have just a wonderful experience growing up. To be honest, it's a lot like growing up normally, as if your parents do any other kind of job. But you don't realize till later that you're in an industry that's so different and wild and crazy. To, as us as kids, you're just running around playing hide and seek, and you run past some crazy costume people as you're hiding under the producer's desk or the accountant's desk, and they're helping you hide while they're trying to manage an entire crazy army show that's going on. It's pretty much that. And with the cat, you meet these famous, who you recognize as now famous when you grow up, but to when you're a kid, that's just Uncle Bruce. Oh, there's Uncle Benicio. You can just call him Uncle Benny. So you just kind of get a normal childhood, especially with someone like our mother who was very protective of us and helped ensure that it was just a wonderful experience. So yeah, that's what it was like growing up.
So when you guys were, and I'll let you talk in a second, Rebel. What was it like when you discovered, oh, this isn't normal? Like, that Uncle Benicio just won an Oscar. For sure. Yeah. Why, when you had that realization, what was that like for both of you? Like when I hit, because I'm assuming that hit at a certain point when you got older.
Yeah. Yep. Go for it, Rebel.
Definitely. Yeah, it was definitely all the props. You kind of see as you're running past them as a kid, people like remarking on them like, oh, wow, that's this and that. And as we started to see some of the movies your dad made, I mean, obviously we didn't see them for a long time other than like Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl and stuff for good reason. When you start to hear people like remark on it, and it's like, oh, it's like a thing. People really this is like a huge thing for them. Kind of like how for us, Spy Kids vehicles are like a big thing. And so, the electric chair from Sin City, we never quite knew what it was, but it was like, that's kind of a huge deal. Yeah. Yeah. There's like a great wax figure of Bruce Willis there as Hartigan. And it always freaked us out as kids. Like he's just kind of staring at you, but now, you see the poster as adults and we're like, dude, that's just so iconic and cool. And, it was just as impressionable as a kid, even if you didn't fully understand what it was. But
no, man, Sin City, when you watch Sin City for the first time, when that first came out, people don't get it. There's nothing in film history that had ever been shot like that, ever.
Yeah, nothing like that ever.
Nothing ever like that. It was insane, man. It's insane. So, all right, so let me ask you this. So then when you guys first, so you're growing up, Uncle Bruce, Uncle Mauricio, all these kind of guys, at a certain point, you're able to watch some of your dad's early work. So what was it like watching El Mariachi for the very first time?
Oh man, it was really, really impressive. And what's funny is we held it off for so long. It wasn't until we were, getting in the late teens, kind of at the end of high school. And from then on out, you're out of school and you got to figure out what it is that you want to do. And we had an inkling that we wanted to create and be in the creative space, whether that was filmmaking or anything else. But watching that for the first time, it was just mind blowing to see how much you could step out and accomplish. And to see that it's our dad who we've known our whole lives and we love him. He's a funny, great father. But to see like, wow, how smart and how little he had then, yet how smart he was and just how perseverant he was, that with absolutely nothing, you can go and create something incredible that sets off not only a lifetime career, but at the same time, an entire wave that inspires so many people across the world for decades. And
definitely.
It was really just an impressive moment and really inspiring of like, oh, we're at his age. We too can go off and do something like this. And we too can conquer and accomplish just like he did. So that's really what it was the first time.
How about you?
It was cool. It's, we grew up with a lot of the wisdom that he kind of injected in the way he worked and also in like his books, like, Rebel Without a Crew. So we'd always kind of heard, when you're making something, work with what you have, not with what you need and all that kind of stuff. But then when we watched it, it was cool to see like everything he's kind of told us through the years that we thought was just like dad wisdom was like, how he kind of did it. And it was incredible to see it in action and see the results you get from it. It was really, really inspiring and cool.
Did you either of you ever just go, the old man just doesn't know what he's talking about? Like I know better. I mean, look, I did. I mean, every son does that to their dad at one point. Like, that's the old way of doing it, Dad. You don't really know. We're 19. We know life.
We know what's up. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of more sobering when you think that for a second, like, oh yeah, I'm going to say that. But then you walk past poster after poster after poster of like, maybe let me rethink that. You know what else he taught me? To be humble and look at other people's point of views. So I think I'm going to channel that a little bit. So there have been very few moments of that.
Yeah. Many thoughts, very few moments.
Many thoughts. Exactly. That's the way to put it.
How about you, Rebel? Same thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was also another thing is we grew up right at the era of the Game Boy Advance and like the DS and like all the video game kind of stuff. So we're always like, man, but our video games are different. This is our kind of stuff we're into and all that. But Spy Kids still always kind of captured that in a way to where we were like, I mean, we never thought it weird that movies could so well capture what kids were into in that era until you see some other things. It's like, right, it just really didn't have that. Was that whole thing. But you still had that feeling of like, I don't know, we have this in our thing, and you don't even realize all of it's inspired by, well, guess who? Him and many other filmmakers. So it's like,
it's fascinating because when Mariachi came out, I'm only probably about 5 or 6 years younger than your dad. So I was in high school. Wow. I was working at a video store. Wow. And that's behind me. That's the video store poster that I kept all of these years.
Awesome.
Mariachi. So cool. It says a Mariachi poster. I have 2, by the way. I stole 2 from my store. Because he was the only Latino he was the only Latino filmmaker that I could even. There were no Latino. I mean, there were, but there were no real out there Latino filmmakers like he was. And
for sure.
and for people, can you just explain to people from your point of view? From my point of view, Mariachi is that movie that you said it launched an independent film revolution. People still talk about it like a myth. Like there was this once there was this dude who made a $7,000 movie, and then he got into Hollywood. Like it's a mythical story that they tell in the corners of film schools around the world. Yeah, to this day. And I always tell people, because this is something this is one of the things I brought the show up. I started the show up was because I wanted to tell people how to avoid pitfalls in the industry. And Robert and your mom both fell into a lot of those pitfalls along the way, and they were kind of thrust into a world that Robert wasn't even thinking this was going to go to the Latino Mexican film video market. It was not supposed to be the thing. But a lot of people were like, oh, I'm going to make a $7,000 movie. I'm like, that's great. It's 2023. It's a little different now. The market's a little different. The world's a little different than it was before. And I've been trying to say that again and again. Like, this is not 1991 anymore. It's not 1999 anymore. It's not 2009 anymore. It's 2023. From your point of view, how do you think the legacy of Mariachi has kind of continued? And do you guys agree with me that a lot of filmmakers listening, they're like, oh, I'm going to go make it. Go make it. But understand, Robert's path was many people tried to redo that path, or Quentin's path, or Kevin Smith's path, or Richard Linklater's path. It's insane. So, from your point of view, what do you guys think?
Absolutely. First off, absolutely agree and love that about you and your work, that you've kind of taken that ethos and have always updated it for people now, of like how to take that drive that movie and that myth inspires in people to go create, and helping them adapt it to the current age, current era, and to avoid, as you said, pitfalls that now we have the knowledge and foresight to be able to avoid. So I've always really liked that about your work.
Oh, appreciate it.
But yeah, so agree on that first off, but then totally. But what I've always saw from it is that he got a very specific path through what, it's so many things that happened and came together all at the same time for that passion and drive and what he went through to equate to what it led to. But I always see that the thing that inspires people the most is kind of the timeless aspects of it. The idea of perseverance and creativity under restriction, intense restriction, and the attitude that put that drive and passion into whatever it is that you love, and you can create something that will turn heads, that will get attention, that people will like and want to follow you for, and that can inspire people you've never even met. So that's why I always love when people outside of the film industry that read the book or heard the myth and went off to go do things that have nothing to do with film, but just whether it's business or even accounting. We've heard accounting before as well, like so many different fields that were inspired by that idea. So that's what's really cool to me, is there's something you can adapt to it to modern times, but yet there's this timeless aspects almost of that myth. So
yeah, there's a almost timeless aspect of that. What it really captured was that it doesn't take a budget of that huge a size to create great quality work and great quality story. And especially if you write and you work with what you have and work with the limitations you do have, rather than trying to do something that's going to be outside of your scope or possibility at the moment financially, you can create something that turns heads and is really blockbuster, remarkable level work with very little. And that can do a lot. And usually quality like that doesn't go unnoticed for very long. So it starts to make the rounds, make waves and stuff. So
very true.
Really important part of it.
Now, Rebel, you did a little movie years ago when you were 5, called The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And I mean, I know how you were cast, but how did you even want to do it? Were you even thinking of acting at that point? What? How did that even? Because look, man, one thing is to jump around the set and play around and Uncle Bruce and all that stuff, but to be in front of the camera, even for the small part that you played, I saw that. I was like, man, that kid's got some cojones. I mean, he's up there with the things on the scales on the side of his the whole thing, man.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So you have to look back a bit to Spy Kids 1, Spy Kids 2. This is where it really started, was Spy Kids 1. I was the baby on the front of the magazine. Carly Georgina's reading. And when she's in the airport, it's 2 spies who fell in love story. That's me on there. That's where it started. Spy Kids 2, when the Magnum Men attack at the banquet, the OSS banquet, and they're fighting the bad guys. One of the kids takes down one of the guys, and that's my oldest brother, Rocket. The next one comes along and grabs him too. That's Racer. So the next one down the line. And then I come running out and I kick the guy in the side, and that's me. And I don't know. Our dad's always been a filmmaker, even outside of film. He loves taking home videos of us and stuff. We have whole archives of. He just loved filming us too. He thought it was just so interesting. Kind of brings back the bedhead kind of days of that short film of his.
Yeah.
We've always just kind of been used to the idea that there's a camera like right here sometimes for whatever reason. And so it didn't feel like that big of a transition to just be like, well, it's just the other camera here at the place. And there's a bunch of people looking at you while you do something, and they tell everyone quiet on set, which you've heard a lot if you're running around there. And yeah, it was pretty natural. It was just, I liked the story he made, and I was like, I want to be in it too, because that's how kids are. Your brother's got it, you want it too. So
obviously. I
didn't see coming that they would put me up on wires and stuff to simulate the swimming parts and things and spray me with water and all that. Once I learned how hard it was and I was freezing up there and I was doing my own stunts, there's actually even a funny moment where they've got me up there on the wires and I'm there yelling, well, how come I have to do my own stunts? I mean, it's like, yeah, so very quickly learned it's not quite as easy as it seems. But I mean, it was very natural to us, considering we just always kind of had a camera in front of us all the time. So it's like, they just throw you into the movie and that's how it goes. And it's like, cool.
So you're telling me that the film industry is not glamorous? Is that it's not? Don't you guys all just eat lobster at lunch all day and sit around? Isn't that the way it works?
It was surprising to a 5 and 7-year-old, but it wasn't glamorous.
Yeah,
so we quickly found.
Yeah, exactly.
So and so it sounds like your parents were pretty much programming you since birth to like subtly, hypnotically.
Looking back at it, I mean, a little bit to some extent, but it's like that wasn't even the intention either.
Right? No, subtle. They're very smart, both of them.
Yeah.
They're just they're subtly.
Exactly. It was very
subtle.
they never wanted to pressure us into doing anything, which was pretty cool. But if there was hypnotism, it was very subtle.
It was very subtle. It was very subtle.
It was more than anything, they were excited to show us what they do, and I think that's really special.
That of course, man. Of course, like any parent would be wanting to show, like, hey, look what I do. I just happen to make cool movies, and have cool things happening around you. That's awesome. Now, I wanted to talk to you both about Red 11, because I heard about Red 11, and for people who don't know, please explain to who Red 11 is. But when I heard about Red 11, I was so excited. I was like, oh, the GOAT is going back. He's going to go back to do another $7,000 movie, and he's bringing the boys with him. So, can you tell people what Red 11 was?
Absolutely. Red 11 is one of our favorite projects. So this myth we keep talking about, El Mariachi, made for $7,000 in the 90s. For the 25th anniversary of that movie, Robert wanted to go back and make a film for $7,000 again. No crew or one other crew member. No money, try to do it all in one location and shoot it all in 14 days, just like he did on the original El Mariachi. And so he thought, my one crew member, I'm going to bring my son onto this, because I had just started working with him, apprenticing under him at the time for Alita Battle Angel. And so he said, you want to come on and be my one other crew member so we can do this whole thing together? And while we're making it, let's make an entire documentary about how to make a film with no money. And it was such a blast of an experience. We quickly brought on Rebel to both star in it so that he could be there on set to help us out, because the only crew members we had were the cast. When they weren't on camera, they were behind camera, moving lights, moving props, closing doors for sounds, and
being
whatnot.
A flag, so just like
being a flag to block
in front of a light, just like
that's brilliant.
That's real bare bones film production. And so we cast Rebel and put him in. I wrote him into almost every scene so that he could always be there to help us. And then Rebel went on to do the score for it as well. And so that's the premise of Red 11. I'll tell you, to this day, it's still my favorite film project we ever did, because it's so creative. When you have nothing, all you have is your mind. You have to be creative every single day. Everything's falling apart, even when you've limited it so much. Every single day things are falling apart, and you have to come up with creative solutions, laughing about it with your dad and your brother and the cast who you've quickly become friends with because you're all in the same trench together. It's really, really a sublime experience. And the coolest part about it was, you see your parents as these figures that have lived so much life, and you don't feel like you could ever be forced in the same situation together and see how each other act. But I thought he would be my dad would be my mentor on this and that. He knows exactly how to do all this. He's paved the way before. But it was really humbling and inspiring to him look at me and go, I don't know how we're going to do it either. Let's figure it out. Here, you and I, we're going to sit here, we're going to figure it out. We're going to move this, do that. So to really see him put into the same pressure, put in the same experience, that was mind blowing and is one of my favorites.
No. He doesn't have all the answers all the time. He finds them, and that's what he's really, really good at. So he knows how to find answers on a dime like that and create some really great stuff out of it. So, I mean, it was just cool to finally see it. It's like, how does he work when he's put under this pressure? It's like, oh, it's just like all of us too, but he's just that much. He's learned that much more about how to do it and stuff. So it's a skill people can develop and learn. So
yeah, it's like I tell my daughters I have old man strength, and that's a thing. By the way, old man strength is a thing. I had a trainer who was 20 something. I'm lifting up more than he is. It's like, how are you doing that? You're out of shape. I'm like, I have old man strength now. In the same tone, Robert has not old man strength, but he's got experience. He's got a wealth of, you just pick up these things, and when you're on set, you've just been there before. So even though I might not know how to do it right now, this over here, move that over there. It's pretty remarkable. It's pretty remarkable to see.
It's cool how it fundamentally starts. You all start out in the same spot. We don't know how we're going to do it, and then it's just like that's what you're developing is the learning of how you're going to do it. So it's really cool.
Did you guys just run and gun? I mean, you had some plan. Obviously, you had a script. But did you kind of show up on the day and just go, all right, let's set up the scene? Or were there a lot of storyboards, things like that?
No, oh man, it was pretty run and gun, because it's funny. The one we kind of restricted it a little more than Mariachi, because now we had all the money to make a movie with a budget, but we cut out the money. Now we had all the crew and people we know who could do it, but we cut out the crew. And then it's like, well, I guess all we have left is time. But 14 days, but Robert didn't even have that at this point because we were busy doing visual effects for Alita Battle Angel and writing other projects. So we would just pick days that we could get a few hours in and tally it up to 14 days. And so over the course of a month and a half, we just squeezed in some hours there, squeezed in some hours here. So that leads to very much you're texting the cast like an hour before you get there. Hey, we're going to film today. We got like 4 hours. Let's go knock out this scene while we can. So people just show up and like, oh gosh, we don't know how we're going to do this. Well, let's figure it out right now because we've only got what time is it? All right, let's keep going. We got to figure it out.
So it's a side hustle. It was a side hustle.
It was a side hustle film. Yep.
Yeah.
Side hustle
crazy.
Filmmaking.
So I mean,
really run and gun.
I wasn't on the writing side of it, but whole scenes were rewritten because you get on set and go, well, we don't have this, and that. Okay, well, let's just change it up to make it work with this. And it was just like nonstop. I mean, it's rewriting it right there as everyone's showing up. So then you can do the scene right away. I mean, it's really...
It's remarkable. And that's such a lesson for filmmakers listening, because so many filmmakers, they think they study like Hitchcock or Scorsese or, Kubrick. And, they like, oh, everything has to be exactly the way I have it in my mind because I'm a genius and, we're all geniuses. I mean, all of us obviously are geniuses, filmmaking geniuses. And soon Hollywood will see our genius. And that's how we think, because we're all nuts. We're all absolutely insane. The filmmaker, we're all insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've seen on set where I visited other filmmaker sets that they just break down if something's not exactly the way they planned it, and I'm like, that guy's not going to make it. He because filmmaking isn't that. Filmmaking is even the biggest guys who have had an opportunity to talk to many of them. Some of the most famous scenes in history. I've talked to some of these filmmakers, and they're just like, yeah, it's on the day.
For sure. Absolutely.
Or everything's planned out, half of it falls apart, which is pretty much how it goes. You plan it all, so that way as much of what was planned will stay there as possible. The rest is going to fall apart, and you got to figure it out from there. But absolutely. You kind of accept it, and you got to learn to roll with the punches as much as you do figure things out ahead of time. So,
and Racer, when you started writing Rebel 11 with your dad, you guys kind of, I think the first time I'd ever heard, I'm sure it happened somewhere else in cinema history, but when Mariachi was written, he was just writing around the things he had already, which was such a revolutionary idea, as opposed to like, I need to have a Porsche in this scene. I need to do you have a Porsche? No, it's going to cost you you have a Volkswagen. Just use the Volkswagen. So he wrote around the elements, literally like a dog, a turtle, and a Mexican town, and a couple guns, and that's what I had, and that's how I made my movie. Can you explain the power of that in the Red 11 experience of just writing around things that you have access to, because it does free you a lot and lessens the stress a bit on a stressful situation already?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we wanted to implement the exact same writing process for Red 11. And so we said, let's only take what we got and go from there. So we filmed the entire film, all of it, on our Troublemaker studios, our studios here in Austin, which is two airport hangars, and then a bunch of hallways and offices. And we thought we will write a story that works for this location, and that's all we're going to use. And so location, we just used all that we had. Now, what Robert's got kind of in his back pocket now is a little more than a turtle and a bus now. We have the whole storage that, because we're kind of hoarders, we keep all of our props and anything we've ever used in a movie before. So we have all the guns, all the gadgets, all the things locked up somewhere. So we pulled from there as all our props, but still, we only wrote around what we could get out of that storage room, out of that locker. A lot of people can get more than that from Goodwill nowadays, but or out of their dad's closet, really. So we came at it from the same approach, and it is really freeing because it unlocks creativity in a way you can't imagine. Suddenly, when you have just the one thing you're going to use in a scene and the one room you're going to have to use, you come up with 5 or 6 more ideas than you would of just kind of thinking what you would want. Going with what you have versus what you want, it's really powerful. Anybody I talk to nowadays, and they want to make a whole feature film, they've done shorts and whatnot, and they've done it in a traditional setting, I tell them, okay, write a feature and just go off of what you've got. Just trust me, it's powerful. The what you want is the rep of doing the entire film from beginning to end. You don't want to have to add more pressure of having to get things to land, to be there on time, or people or places or objects. Like, that's really freeing. And to this, pretty much on every project, you'll find yourself using that same method going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really what it does is when you're just there thinking about, I could make anything. What am I going to make? I mean, there's like a trillion different options. There's an infinite amount of options, really. And it's just, you'll end up with something that's got too many elements, too much this, too much that. By just using what you have, it streamlines it all in an instant. And it's like, you've got 3 things. Okay, well, now I got to write a whole story about these 3 things. And it's just, it really does, probably one of the most important things is really streamlining what kind of an idea you have. And from there, a lot generates, because you go, well, I only have this, this, and that. How do you make a story with this, this, and that? So,
and I'll tell you, go ahead, Rich.
Oh, no, yeah. And the process just gets a little funny on Red 11, part of why it's so special, because you go, okay, this scene only has to have a syringe, this office, and the jackhammer that George Clooney used in Dusk Till Dawn. How are we going to do it? So it's a little unique in that way.
How does that make sense? It's just, it goes from there. But
it's like a crazy Mad Libs. It's like a crazy Mad Libs.
Mad Lib filmmaking.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I got inspired going down the road of Mariachi and Red 11. My last feature, I shot exactly the same way. I said, you know what? Great. I'm gonna shoot an entire movie at Sundance while the festival's going on, and steal the entire movie. Have 3 actors I had never met before meet me there. I had an apartment on Main Street and had a cameraman, myself, and the sound guy, and we just stole the whole thing in 3 days and shot an entire movie in 3 days, and we sold it, and it made money, and did it for about $3,000. And it was so much fun because I knew Sundance, awesome. And I'm like, and it's like, it was kind of like the Mexican town because you could get 1,000 locations in a couple blocks. So I'm like, dink, 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 dink. Everyone's like, did you get permission? I'm like, no. I shot at Sundance headquarters. I went into Sundance headquarters and shot full. I'm like, amazing. People are in my scene. I'm like, can you move, please? I'm shooting. Can you please?
That is amazing.
My DP is like, dude, we don't have permission to be. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm the director in me is like, you're ruining my shot. Can you please move, sir?
That's so funny.
That is amazing. Okay, I'm writing down to watch that later. That is
I'll let you guys see it. I'll send it to you. It was so much fun to do, but and I've shot other things and with bigger budgets and stuff, but that was so much fun. It was an experimental, just like, I don't care what happens with this, $3,000. Let's just go and have some fun. And the actors, I told the actors, I told the actors, I go, I don't know what's I truly, when I was on the trip back to LA at the time, I didn't know if I had a movie. Did I get enough coverage? I don't know. Because you didn't have time to see dailies. You were just like, moving.
Go, go, go.
Yeah.
Go, go, go. So then I told him, like, look, at least you're going to have an insane story to tell somebody in 20 years that one time you went to Sundance and you shot a movie. Like, that's going to make you have to. I'll give you stories because I can't pay you a whole lot. So I'll give you stories. And it worked.
That's great.
That is amazing. That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
It was the best.
That is the best extrapolation of Mariachi filmmaking I've ever heard. That's incredible.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right. So on Red 11, what was the biggest challenge for you guys? Just because there's challenges every day, every second of every day. But what was the time that you were just like, how are we going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Oh man. It felt like there was, it felt like each day had an existential threat like that. Oh man. Like, oh, we might not be able to finish this project ever. Uh-oh.
Really?
It felt like every day had something like that. It's weird. I can't really pinpoint one problem, but rather that the very first time that we had our plan, we had our script, and we got to set, and it was a scene with, gosh, I want to say like 20 actors in it. And so much had to ride on what we had written, but then none of it could because the set was off, and then a part of the studio broke down, so we couldn't use it. Some of the main cast couldn't be there, and we thought, oh my gosh. And I was just thinking, how the heck are we going to fix this? Again, running into that moment of having to be creative. The biggest problem was right after my dad tells me, oh, well, guess we're just going to figure it out. Like, what ran through my mind beyond that, after that was definitely the biggest problem. But then realizing that every single problem after that, no matter what it was, whether it was the hangar we were in was not soundproof, so it decided to Texas rainstorm on our finale scene that includes a lot of dialogue all over that hangar, so none of the dialogue's usable. Whether it was that or missing cast members or just completely losing an entire vehicle that we had set up, none of that is bigger, or all of that is just an extension of the same problem of we're going to figure it out. We're going to get everybody in a room, in the quietest room, and we're going to re-record all the lines we just did, hoping that they match up to what we just filmed over there in the rainy hangar. So, and it does, like magic. So that's funny. That is what I would say is the biggest problem, is the recurring one that you learn to go with the flow with. And by the end of the production, you laugh the most at those, and you're like, those were the most fun, really, when we were all put in the same corner and had to punch our way out. Those are the most fun.
Those are the stories, as you said. Those become the stories. It's like, you just don't forget that stuff. And
that's remarkable. I mean, and one thing I noticed about Red 11 is that you guys used a lot of practical effects because you just didn't have the budget to do anything else, really. So can you talk a little bit about the power of practical effects? Just the phone, the telekinetic phone on the little table, which is such an easy practice. I mean, because I saw the behind the scenes. By the way, everyone listening have to watch Rebel Without a Crew, the show, but also the behind the scenes of Red 11, because it is a film school and then some. But the phone moving with the magnet, I'm like, it's so, when you show it to you, it's super simple. But if not, you're like using wires or stuff. It was such a beautiful way. Can you talk about the power of practical effects, where so many filmmakers just want to lean on computer effects? Where absolutely. Practical effects, I mean, look at Nolan. He's doing okay. He's doing okay with the practical effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Red 11 was really coming right off of Alita Battle Angel, which was the most visual effects we've ever used. So we didn't have entire characters that didn't exist until we put them in digitally later. Coming off of that, it was a shell shock. We got the bends definitely on Red 11, but it's so much more fun and so much more immediately gratifying on camera when you get a practical effect working and you see it and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're getting away with this. Look how dumb this looks when you look 2 feet this way, but in the lens, it looks incredible. Look at that. I'm totally fooled. Practical effects, I've really come to appreciate and go, that's the magic, most timeless aspects of filmmaking. When we see the Predator and we see, oh my gosh, look how much that suit and that face and that creature still holds up to this day, or it still feels just as real, just as like slimy and tactile as it did when it released in 84, 87, whatever it was. like that to me, practical effects are the most timeless aspects of film, and I want to incorporate a lot more into live action filmmaking and see a lot more of it, because it's, as I say, that's the real movie magic right there.
Yeah.
But I was added, the most important thing about practical effects is that you can make it mean a lot more than what it is, the simple $2 trick it is, because you can write a story around it. You can make it meaningful through the story. You can bring it back multiple times. You can make the same trick mean something and then thus stick with the audience. So that's really what I see the power of practical effects.
How about you?
Yeah. Again, if you work with what you have, that phone trick is actually a very important story moment. It's like, that's literally dragging a phone on a string or with a magnet is an important story thing. And it's like, that's how you have to approach writing and approach creating as well, because you get a lot more mileage out of what little you have. And it's really, really cool.
Well, I mean, when I saw, I think it was Once Upon a Time in Mexico, was the introduction of the guacamole gun for me. I remember the guacamole gun for the first time. If you guys have not heard about the guacamole gun, I have an entire tutorial on it on YouTube of how I built my guacamole gun.
Oh, nice.
Back in the day, because my friend and I were making our first short film, and we're like, we need to blow this girl's head off. Like, how are we going to blow this girl's head off? And we built we just cobbled together air compressor gun and the PVC pipe. We did multiple, at first it was like someone was peeing on you. It was not enough pressure. And then, like, we got to put what's brain matter. And like, it was so much fun, but that's a practical, we use a ton of practical effects on one of those first films I made, because it was cheap and we had a lot of visual effects too, but the practical effects sell so much easier, and it's done. No rendering.
Yep, absolutely.
No crashes, no nothing. But if the guacamole gun, man, that's
the way it's hilarious. The way it looks when you film it is how it's going to look in the final movie. It's like it just you got it. There's no let's hope we have enough money to make it look good. It's like, well, if it looks great here, you're going to be fine, honestly. So
and I'm a big proponent of combining practical and visual, because if you have a base of practical, like in that headshot that we did in that movie, I had my VFX guy just throw a couple more splatters out off of it. But if it would have been just the VFX, you wouldn't have sold it. It's just we didn't have the technology in, I think, 2004 at the time to really make blood hits that really sung. So adding those little things, or fire, if you do fire, fire still is rough. Visual effects.
It's still rough. It's still difficult. It's hard to fake out the human eye.
Well, I mean, if you remember The Rock, remember the movie The Rock?
Yeah.
That there was an explosion of the cart, not the cart, the cable car that blows up. You can see the visual effect flame that they kind of wrapped around it as it blew up, while the bottom was all real. And I'm like, man, God. But that's only trained eyes could see that. Only cinephiles will notice that stuff.
For sure.
But it has a subtle effect too, even to people who don't catch it. It's a subconscious effect of like, this isn't entirely real, and it loses gravity as a result. So.
Oh no, my wife, I mean, because she was not in the film industry whatsoever. And when she's still, been together for nearly 20 years, now we'll watch a movie. She's like, that green screen composite was really bad. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, just the compositing wasn't really good. I mean, didn't they have, this is a Marvel movie. Didn't they have the money to clean that up a little bit? I'm like, wow. It's been a long road
now.
Audiences. But there's so many behind the scenes.
So many kids.
Really? Kids are like,
kids go, CG was bad. I didn't like it. Bad CG. But wow, that's something.
Because now, as opposed to when Mariachi came out, there was no information. There was just no information. Trust me, I looked. Other than the Raiders of the Lost Ark stunt spectacular VHS behind the scenes behind the scenes of Star Wars, there really wasn't a lot of behind the scenes. So it was still kind of a mystery. And that's when all these DVDs that Robert put out with really practical, stuff you started. That was the beginning, I think, of that kind of behind the scenes access. And then now when YouTube showed up, and the YouTube's now everybody, could do anything. But back then, for people that listen who don't understand, who are of a certain age, they don't understand how difficult it was back then to even begin to do what they did on Mariachi or Desperado or From Dusk Till Dawn or any of the films that he did during that era. But it was
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Bad CG.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I forgot to think about that point. But yeah, it was almost CG and all that was movie magic back then because nobody knew how it worked. But now
there was a show called Movie Magic. There was a show called Movie Magic, and you would watch. It was a 30-minute, like behind the scenes of Terminator 2. Those kind of things, and you were just like, "That's great." I don't have James Cameron money, so it's nice. But that's why when Desperado and From Dusk Till Dawn's documentary and behind the scenes of Mariachi, it was the first time you're like, I think I could build a guacamole gun. I think I can do that. So it's this inspirational way of looking at filmmaking. It's remarkable.
That's great.
Yeah.
So with Red 11, Rebel, what was it like composing with it? I mean, because again, that's another thing that your dad did. He's like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna start writing music for the hell of it. I mean, like, I remember that. I'm like, wow, what, dude? Calm down. Yeah. Robert, calm the hell down. What's wrong? Come on. Steady cam, craft service. I mean, stunts. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah. He would just be like, yeah, I think I want to try that. Yeah. I want the music to be like this. I'll just do it. And it's like, wow, okay. I mean, you forget how revolutionary that is. Like, right. No director. Which director was writing and editing? Then which director was writing, editing, and doing music, and then also doing cinematography, and then all that stuff. It's really
Carpenter's the only one that I know of that did music for his own movies, but he still didn't do everything else.
Yeah, that's crazy. Exactly. So it's really special. But there's a thing that's always been the way he's like wanted to teach us is if you want to get into movies and stuff, I'm just going to throw you in onto something you don't know how to do entirely, and you're going to learn while you're doing it pretty much. So Racer was his only other crewmate. He had to do all the sound. He had never done sound before. And so
I know the feeling, brother. I know the feeling. My first feature, I did the sound. Even though I could afford it, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it myself. And I'm like, I'm never doing sound again.
I'm sure you learned real quick though. In like
what a good sound guy is, and why he's valuable or she's valuable on set.
Yeah,
because my next film, I had a sound. I'm like, oh god, everything sounds so good. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's getting a budget next time. Absolutely.
Oh my god, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So it was. I mean, I was writing a little bit of music at home. I was always been playing piano since I was a kid, and I stopped high school, stopped taking piano lessons, and I was like, I want to do something with music. And somehow, all those years, that never quite dawned on me. Oh, right, my dad makes movies. I could write music for movies, right? They have stories, and you can write some music. I mean, like. Took me that long, by the way, but I was like, that would be cool. So I'd been writing a little bit on it throughout the year before, and I wrote like 15 minutes of music for a VR short Robert and Racer did called The Limit. That was like my first scoring project. And then from there, he was like, well, now you just write a whole feature, just a little extra. You just got to write longer and more stuff. And I was like, okay. And I was on my laptop on Logic. Just
yes,
making stuff. Yeah, nice. It was like after writing on GarageBand for most of the time. I mean, I started just like with nothing and just like a little keyboard, and I was like, all right, well, we got to figure this out. And it was probably one of the most stressful experiences ever, but it was really, really fun and special to start looking at the movie and go, right, I guess this is when you would do a character theme and stuff. Like here, you can play a theme for a character and build that up across, and you start getting understanding. Even if your tools are really small, you start learning the thinking and the methodology behind it a little bit more. So, and appreciate like when something times up well and all that. So it taught me a sense of pacing, at least. I kind of learned when I wrote a scene, I was like, that didn't pace. That wasn't paced well to the scene. It felt weird. And then when it actually did work or not, but
can we say something publicly here that your father's insane? Let's just throw that out there. I mean, as a general statement, the insanity of trying to make Mariachi, it's insane at a time that nobody was made. And that insanity has kept going throughout his career. He's been insane in the most beautiful, wonderful way. Insane to like, hey, Rebel, you've never done it. Come over here. Figure it out. Like that's
pretty much
on small budget films first, but then you're like thrown into the deep end of the water with some bigger budget stuff.
Yeah. He's like you want to learn. Yeah. He's like, you want to learn how to swim? I'm going to throw you out into the ocean. And once you're like coughing up along the water, I'll fish you back out. That's how you're going to learn. It's like,
that's right, Shark Boy. Fire. Shark Boy, get out there, Shark Boy.
You're going to do your own stunts. Get out there. I mean, it's pretty much always been that. And
swim, Shark, swim.
Yeah,
Swim,
exactly.
shark, swim. Exactly. But we all have to be kind of insane to even be in this business. This is an insane.
Absolutely.
We're like, this is carny. We're all carnies, and this is the circus. I mean, in a carnival, we're all carnies. We all smell of cabbage and have small hands. No, I'm joking.
Absolutely.
But it's true. It's true.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Rebel.
it's true. It's true. And I think one of the most important lessons it's taught us every time you've had to do it, where you're like, I have no clue what I'm doing. You just feel like, and in this one, even though the budget was small, I had seen all the work we had done. And I was like, I'm going to score all that work. And if it sucks, I drop the ball right after everyone else put in all this effort. So it is a lot, but the most important thing it taught me is you're really not ever going to be ready. It's like you're never going to be fully comfortable. I can do this and then dive into it. You're always going to have that. I don't know if I can do this. I'm almost there, but I don't know. That's when you got to start. Is you'll become ready as you're doing it, and you learn a lot more actually doing it. When you actually when the boat has to actually hold water, you'll learn a lot more of what actually works, what doesn't work. So you do have to be ready, put yourself out there and actually be willing to fail sometimes. Don't make your first movie feature when you can do it. It's like, you're not going to feel like, you're ready at all. Maybe you've done some shorts, maybe you've done some this. You just got to dive in there and do it, basically. So
would you agree that one of the biggest skill sets any filmmaker at any level, any crew person, anything, is the ability to understand and accept failure as part of the process, and not to let that derail you? You just have to kind of keep going, because that is a skill set that most people don't have, let alone filmmakers don't have that ability to fail. And it seems like, what your father and your mother have taught you throughout your career is failure's okay. Hey, everyone goes up and down, and sometimes you have a good movie, sometimes you have I like the movie, but the audience didn't like the movie, didn't do well in the box office, didn't do this or that, or oh my God, how the hell did that happen? Like there's all of it, but failures is a big deal. Can you talk a little bit about that from your experience?
Yes. Yeah, no, that is totally it. I mean, he says you learn so much more from your failures than your successes. And I mean, he's shown it all throughout his career. 4 Rooms didn't do all that great, but what he saw was, hey, it's actually pretty funny to have these 2 little kids here who get into all this trouble. They barely even tie their own their shoes, and they're doing all this stuff. How about they're spies or something? That's where that came from. So, from his failure came Spy Kids, which ended up being a humongous thing. So he's always been excited to just jump in and trip and fail, because he knows when you stumble, when you go down that path that no one's ever gone, where you're not comfortable with, you'll stumble, but you'll also stumble upon new things. You'll stumble upon great new ideas for stuff. And yeah, I don't think you're ever going to fully appreciate that you have more to learn unless you've seen you have things to work on, basically. So it's almost like you're guaranteed. It's not like it was a home run making the Red 11 score. I had things that I was like, that really didn't work out. This wasn't that. But instantly from there, I was like, that's what I need to get better at. That's what's, this is really important. I never would have probably realized that unless I actually scored a movie and seen this works, this doesn't work, all that. So it's really, it teaches you to accept failure pretty quick.
How about you, Razor?
I absolutely agree. It's one of the most important skill sets that anyone can have. And I can point a lot to what makes you averse to failure, because we felt it, whether you're the son of anybody important or whether you're just comparing yourself to somebody that you're not, like any of the other great filmmakers, because we watch all these great movies. You want to be like them. But the most important, you're going to see only your failures, and you're not going to look at any of theirs.
Right.
And you're gonna right, or what they consider their failure, you consider their greatest work. So you're blind to other people's failures, and you can compare yourself to man, I'm the age he made the Mariachi, and he did all that by himself, and I haven't done anything. I haven't made a film all by myself like that too, and it's and his made such a big splash, but I haven't made anything like that. But comparing to others makes you so averse to failure, because that's one of the biggest drivers of why you don't want to fail. But you just got to fail. You just got to go at it and fail, and compare yourself only with yourself, really. Go, as Revel just said, okay, that score wasn't a slam dunk, but I know where I can do better next time. So I'm going to try it. I know I'm going to make that better for myself and for the audience next time. That's what I want to do. So,
it's and when you're saying that, the first thing that came into my mind is, as filmmakers of my generation, first thing you think of is when you hit 23, you go, Orson Welles made Citizen Kane at 23.
absolutely.
I haven't done crap. And you're like, but it's okay. It's okay. Then it hit 27. You're like, Spielberg made Jaws at 27. Oh God. So then you keep moving. Is like, when did Quentin make Reservoir? Like at what, 30 or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you keep pushing.
Terminator,
like,
30 something.
Like, and then now you're like, Ridley Scott didn't make his first film until 40. Like, you just keep trying to make yourself feel better. You're like, oh, at a certain. By the way, that's when I made my first feature at 40. I couldn't. I got. That's a whole other story of why I didn't do it before. But I did a lot of other directing and other things like that. But you start going, you're like, oh, okay. But if you do compare yourself to these quote unquote gods, and that's another thing that a lot of filmmakers do. They put these filmmakers up on pedestals. I mean, look, I have a Stanley Kubrick autograph book behind me. Then I got Hitchcock right next to it. I mean, I have books from all my favorite filmmakers behind me. You do put them up on a pedestal, but one of the great honors and privileges of my life of doing this show is I get to talk to some of these sometimes, these guys, these gods. And then I realized a long time ago when I did this first shows, I was like, they all have the same issues. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough time. I always tell people, no matter who you are in this business, you're going to get punched in the face. At every Spielberg still gets punched in the face. Not as much as he used to. Robert, I'm sure, still gets punched in the face, sideswiped, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. From
absolutely.
the business or something like that. The difference is that now, as you get older, you start to learn how to duck a little bit, and sometimes it just grazes you. And sometimes you're not even there when the punch is thrown because you've been around a little bit longer. But no matter who you are, you're going to go through it is the great equalizer, filmmaking. No matter who you are, no matter how much money you have, you could have, look at Cameron. Jesus, look what James is doing. I mean, he has all the money in the world. He's the only filmmaker who does that, by the way. People are like, who do you think could have made Avatar? Only James Cameron. No,
only James Cameron. Absolutely.
They're not giving that to Spielberg, to Nolan, to Fincher, to Robert, to no one else is getting $500 million to like, I might make a movie in a few years.
Absolutely.
It's insane, right? It's insane. But no matter how much money you have, every day there's a problem because it's part of the artistic process. So you brought up 4 Rooms, by the way. My favorite 4 Rooms obviously is Robert's because it was the most fun. And that was the moment that you started to see the shift into the family stuff. Because before then it was stuff that you guys couldn't watch. And then Spy Kids came out. And I want to impress on people what Spy Kids means to so many people around the world. Spy Kids is one of those franchises. In the first film, there had never been anything like that again, Robert. Nothing had ever been made like that with Latino people. I always said this because I'm Latino. I'm of Cuban descent. And I'd never seen myself portrayed in a movie like that before. But anytime I do, it was always like, hi, I'm Latino. Let me eat my taco. And I'm like, again, like it was so on the nose where it was never mentioned in Spy Kids. It was just, they're just people having an adventure. And I think that was another one of those points that inspired other filmmakers to bring in other cultures and not point out like, there's the black guy, there's the Asian guy, it's like, no, it's a story. And it opened up. Spy Kids was one of the first times I saw that in the Latino culture. And, when my kids were old enough, I showed them Spy Kids and they just like gobbled up the first 4. Like they were just like, oh my God. Because it's like,
that's great.
Kids will always watch a movie or story that gives kids power. It's a give. Anytime there's kids in power making adults look like idiots, done. It's a hit. It's a hit. Am I wrong?
You're very right. The motto of Spy Kids is make kids feel powerful, make kids feel cool. That's
right. Exactly. And then We Are Heroes. And then you did that with We Are Heroes as well. So what was your experience when you guys first saw Spy Kids? And because you were on it, you were shooting. Tell me what your experience was making it Because I know you were. How old were you guys when Spy Kids came out?
So
It's
I was
vague for me, but yeah, go for it.
yeah, your Evel was 2 when it first came out. So I was 4 when the first one came out. And that was, imagine you're from like 0 to 4 years old. You kind of know that your parents do something. They do work, this thing called job. They've got one, but you don't know what it is. You see dad go off to this office that's attached to the house, and he goes off and he disappears all day, and he's doing something. And no matter how many times he comes home to tell you that he's making a movie, you don't like get it. You don't really understand until you're sitting in a car service riding to this movie theater where now there's, instead of a quiet Tuesday afternoon, there's thousands of kids and families gathered outside of this theater. And you're like, oh, there's a carpet. There's like, wait, why are we walking down this? Why are we dressed so nice to go to this movie theater? And then you sit in the theater, you watch this mind-blowing movie called Spy Kids 1. And end credits come on, and both your mom and dad's names come out at the end. And you're like, what? Okay, wait. And like, wait, all these other crew people who I've met and I know their names too. This is crazy. Wait, you all make movies? Really? You made this?
Yeah.
That's
it
My
dawns on
dad
you.
and mom?
Yeah.
People who like raising me? What?
Yeah. It
You
really
made dinner
takes
last night?
yeah,
he made
exactly.
me pancakes yesterday morning? Like, what?
Right, exactly.
It really takes him showing you the props afterwards and going, look, here he is. Here's the jetpack. Here's the buddy pack. Here's the thumb. We made these. They're on the movie. It's like, it takes that much for you to finally go, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, it's like, yeah. So,
Oh, my kids still don't understand what I do. They're like, you're on YouTube, but you also make movies. And can we watch your movies? No, you're not old enough for the movies I made yet.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, so, but you're on YouTube. Do you have followers? People follow you? You have subscribers? I'm like, yeah. And then I got recognized a couple times in public, which is crazy with them. And they're just like, what? Why? Like, and then it's the thumb. It's like showing you the jetpack and like somebody else's. It's remarkable. The veil,
realization,
the veil that we have as kids to what our parents did.
Yeah.
And you just like, and you need to be hit over the head for you to go, they make movies.
Because he'd say
Antonio,
he makes movies, and here we are making home movies, and we're like, well, he just kind of like, we're just
everyone makes home movies.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
so that's what you thought. You're like, of course, everyone makes movies. Like,
hit over the head with it for sure. That's a good way to word it.
Yeah,
but yeah, and when you see it like that. And then you're a part of all the next ones, it makes a lasting impact on you too. We joke that our family is the biggest fans, the biggest geeks of Spy Kids ever. Yeah. We geek out the most over all the props and vehicles and actors and anything.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so it's not just the impact it had on us. It's like not a stretch at all to see how much it's impacted people, across the world, and how much they remember it and love it and have such fun memories of it. So.
And for people listening, when Spy Kids 1 came out, it was a massive hit. Like it was a massive hit, like the biggest hit your parents ever had.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It was, and McDonald toys. I remember McDonald toys. There was a thing with McDonald's that I was like, this was huge. It was huge. And like, hey, maybe we should do some more of this kid stuff.
This kid stuff is pretty cool.
In the kitchen, there's still a little Ralph. There's a little Ralph toy about this big, just sitting up on one of the ledges. And he fell one day. And I got a picture of him. I was like, man, it took that long for him to finally fall down. I got a picture of him. I put him right back up there. It's like,
back on your pedestal, King.
And I was a kid just staring at him up there. Like, when can I play with him? He's just, they knew we'd lose him as a kid, but so he just stayed up there. It's like, no, he's spying. He's just
he's spying.
It's crazy how pervasive it was everywhere. I mean, it was just so impactful too. So
yeah. And
again, like you said, nothing like that. I mean, it's just.
No, nothing like that. And what was really fascinating to me too is that with Spy Kids, your parents didn't fall into the same trap that so many Hollywood filmmakers get into, was when they have a big hit, the studios show up and like, here's more money. Take a lot more money and just double the budget and just do whatever you want. And they said, no, we're going to do the exact same budget, and they'll be fine. And that's such a smart move. It's such a brilliant move because you get intoxicated with money being thrown at you, the success. And they said, no, we're good. Give us the same. We'll make another one. And it was so brilliant because if that's not as big of a hit, it's okay. But if they would have taken they could have easily got $100 million budget for the next one.
Absolutely.
Comfortably. And it would not have been a good business move. So that's another lesson, for all of us who will eventually have the Spy Kids kind of fame and success. Remember, don't take the 100 million when they offer it to you, boys and girls listening.
Absolutely. That's a really good observation. I'd never thought about that, not once till you mentioned it today, but I really agree with you. Yeah, that's just another side of their genius, how smart they were and how thoughtful about filmmaking and how much they can make, they can accomplish. Yeah.
And it is a lesson that can be we were joking about the $100 million, but when you do have anywhere, if you have some success anywhere, don't get intoxicated by it. Understand that this is a moment, it will pass, and you can be right down at the bottom again real quick. How many wonderful filmmakers have we seen who rose, got a little too intoxicated, went a little crazy, bombed, and they get thrown into director jail, and you don't see them again. And sometimes you don't see them again, ever again. And it's such a shame where, that happens. And again, it happens in any of your successes in any field, anywhere you go. Don't get intoxicated by it, because the one thing that people, and that's the one thing I think your parents never really fell into, was you're the greatest. Oh my God, you're this, you're that. Here's more money. They just really grounded the entire time they've been making movies. It has been, you could see it in the filmography, Sin City, huge, monumental. Filmmakers that are legendary were like, how did you do this? And yet cool, very, very level-headed throughout the rest of, moving forward. It's pretty admirable to see a filmmaker and like your parents, both of the filmmakers, stay grounded during this whole process, and then keeping you guys grounded. I mean, you guys are an example of this groundedness, because you guys could have, I've met some Hollywood, quote unquote Hollywood kids, and it's I'm sure you have too. And it's a brutal business, guys. It's a brutal business that could eat up somebody and tear them apart and destroy them like that. Would you agree?
I completely agree. Absolutely. Yeah. I've always appreciated that groundedness they apply, to their careers, that they applied to raising us, and in even raising us in the same industry, and now teaching us and training us in the same industry. So yeah, I absolutely agree. That's a really cool observation. Thank you for that about them.
No, absolutely. So now there's this fifth installment, because you guys can't stop making Spy Kids.
You can't stop.
I mean, it's just like it's back to the horse we go. No, I'm joking. No, I was really excited.
We had other people tell us these are like Bond movies. Like, this is such a universal tale. Just keep bringing it back every once in a while.
And just new cast. We'll bring Daniel Craig in. We'll bring Pierce Brosnan in. It'll be great. No, these could arguably keep. I mean, you guys can. When Robert and Elizabeth are both, completely retired from making stuff, you guys are like, we're going to keep going, and you could be the Pacholis, like in Spy Kids. You just keep going. The broccoli family. That just keeps going, and we have to bring in some new Spy Kids. It could easily keep going. I mean, by the way, is Spy Kids Armageddon the beginning of a new trilogy that you guys are trying to make?
That's the idea. Is we got new kids that we really love, new family, new parents that we really love, and we just love seeing them together and their energy. And the first thing everybody sees when they, like, any of the crew or the producers, anybody got to see them on set, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to see so much more. They have so much fun and so much energy. So that was the idea. We just made it a little standalone reboot on its own. That was its kind of the vision going in, but seeing it on camera, you go, oh my gosh, I want to keep watching this. I want to see more. So just like with Spy Kids 1, everybody want to see those kids some more. So
Right. And now they're like my age, those kids. I mean,
having kids of their own. Yeah.
having kids of their own and all that, and then you see one of them in Machete and you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, right. There you go. So it's fascinating. But so talk to a little bit about Spy Kids Armageddon. I know Netflix finally got the rights to help you, make the sequels, and they love what you guys did with, I think, We Are Heroes. Are We Are Heroes? We Are Champions.
We Can Be Heroes. Yeah.
We Can Be Heroes. Yeah, We Can Be Heroes,
Yeah.
which, by the way, loved as well. Such a beautiful story, beautiful film. My kids watched it a ton of times. It's great. And the little behind the scenes that they made with you guys on YouTube and stuff like that was so much fun to watch what you guys were doing. And then my kids were like, I want a pen and an iPad. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh no.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Elizabeth and Robert. Thanks, Robert and Elizabeth. I appreciate that. Thanks. So tell me a little bit how this story came about, how you guys came at this new installment.
Yeah, it's perfect that you mentioned We Can Be Heroes, because we had just finished making that, and we loved it. We had such a great time getting to do a kids film again, and getting to write that was fun. Getting to make it was fun, and so Robert and I were just joking around, like, "Oh, could you imagine? What if we do another Spy Kids? That could be really fun, right? Yeah, let's do something like that." And Robert does what he does best. He starts talking to people about it immediately, and it was Skydance that was really interested. And they said, we would love to do Spy Kids. And Robert and I were laughing, from the studio that brings you Mission Impossible comes Spy Kids.
That's amazing.
It was super. We laughed at the idea, and we did a writing process that we've been doing since I was 7, and we did Shark Boy and Lava Girl together. Is we jump in the pool and have a little notepad next to the pool and just swim around and talk ideas, laugh about things, make jokes, talk about it. And pretty much in that pool session, we came with a lot of the major ideas of the story of the film, including the idea that in that making of, or in the behind the scenes with We Can Be Heroes, we mentioned the idea of give kids technology, like don't hold them back to whatever you did when you were going up or growing up or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Give them the best so that they can go further than you, and they will go up leaps and bounds. So try not to hold them to any restrictions you had. See what's available now, see what can help them, and give that to them. So we loved that, and we were just talking about it in the making of, and we thought, yeah, what if we made the whole story about that with Spy Kids? And Rebel worded it greatly. Go for it, Rebel. The idea that you worded it greatly. The idea that giving kids technology, and how that was a huge part of this one.
Oh yeah. It was interesting. It kind of all came together because we loved this. Technology's kind of gotten a bad rap to some extent, of like, it's all bad, books are better. And so we're like, how about we have a movie where it's the opposite, and the book can be just as bad as the technology can be just as good, and vice versa. It's less about the tool and more about the teaching. What are they learning? What are you learning? What values are you kind of learning from that? But that kind of came together with an idea of like, it'd be really cool to have to do a Spy Kids where, is there any way we could make the whole world change to where suddenly kids have like a unique advantage over adults in some way? Like, just conceptually, is there any way to do that? And we're like, what if like the only way to access technology in the world was through like video games, since kids have gotten so adept at this and technology in general that they completely outpace their parents and stuff, and that their own things. It's like, so if the whole world flipped, and if that's like the inciting event, now suddenly the kids are super spies and everyone else is struggling. So it's like, now they're really like the only people that can like save the world. So
that's awesome.
So that was like where the concept really started. But,
yeah. So kind of the core idea came from that. Yeah, let's have a bad guy who's a villain who's a video game designer, and he infects the whole world with a video game virus, and nobody can get to their devices except the kids can, because they're smart and they're savvy with technology and games. So they go leaps ahead of the parents, and within the course of a few days become super spies and are now having to go save the world and take on all the responsibility of that. And so a lot of the core ideas really came to that writing session, and yeah, from there took off. We just started creating it over the course of 2020, 2021. And yeah, that was the birth of the new one, Spy Kids Armageddon.
I feel that it's going to do well, sir.
Thank you.
I feel that the kids are gonna really like. My girls are like excited to see it.
Oh, that's great.
It's so admirable to see how you guys have continued that franchise. And I hope, because even when I saw the trailer, I haven't seen the movie yet because we haven't had access to it yet. But soon we're seeing it hopefully next week. But even the trailer that's why I asked, is this a trilogy? Like I saw where this was going. I was like, oh, this is not, they're making another trilogy out of this. This is solid.
Yeah, it's really special. That was kind of the intention of like, I get the feeling of like Spy Kids 5, usually when something gets to the 5th, it's like, I don't know what's going on anymore. But we really only wanted to do it if there was really a story we could tell that's different from the old ones, but has the same values and stuff. So that's where we kind of saw the opportunity of like, right, there's almost a modern take on this now that it's been 20 years since the first one, where now we have a very significant gap between what that one was about and what this one's about, but they're both still about family and they're both still about empowerment of kids. And this generation would really love that sort of thing, in this new form factor. And it's really cool now, especially that we learned from We Can Be Heroes, is streaming services is really great for kids. They can watch the movie as much as they want, not as much as they can convince their parents to go to the movie and drive them there. So they get to watch it that much more. So We Can Be Heroes is really impactful and beloved because kids could just watch it at the pace they like watching things. You watch it all the way through, gets to the end credits, you just replay it and you do it again, and you do that a few times a day.
Well, you guys might be a little young to remember this, but that's exactly what they did in the video store days with Disney movies. I would rent out a Disney movie and the kids would just on loop watch the VHS again, rewind again. They did it with Spy Kids because Spy Kids was on VHS as well. And they would just loop again and again and again. But now it's instant on their phone, on the car. They could just watch it. I mean, I think my girls have seen We Could Be Heroes a few times, at least 2 or 3 times. And I was like, I'll walk in the living room.
That's great.
Are you what? Didn't you just see this like last week? Like, yeah. They have the ability to do that. Like I can't watch a movie again and again. Mine doesn't do that anymore.
Sure.
It's like
I can't watch Lethal Weapon like 5 times in a row. I can't really do that anymore.
That's funny.
It's just like different the way they enjoy their entertainment, and it was always kind of difficult to make that work, but now it's easier than ever for them. Kind of, I mean, they don't really have much of a problem watching it on a phone or an iPad. They just want to see it and like be able to experience it over and over again, see the jokes again, and right. So it's cool to put something in front of them that like really empowers them and shows them, they can go on a really cool, awesome adventure. They can do really incredible things, and if they work together with their family as well, you can move mountains, and it's always been about that sort of thing too. It's really special. So.
And We Can Be Heroes, if I'm not mistaken, was like -- on Netflix for a while, right? Like a little time, for like a little, like it was like everybody was like, "What's going on? Like, what is this isn't Stranger Things? Like, what's going on?" I heard that. I'm like, "Good man, that's awesome." It wasn't and I know the budgets because I know Robert didn't spend $100 million to make that. So I was like, "Good that a film like that gets that kind of attention worldwide."
Yeah, it's really something.
It's really interesting, and
super fun.
And I believe that this one will probably do. I hope do similar business, if you will, so they can make the next 2 or 3. And then your kids will start making them.
Exactly. That's the hope for us. Right now we're still waiting for the launch, and we're like, I just want to make a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth beyond this. So
exactly. I hope kids connect with it just as much as with We Can Be Heroes and all that kind of stuff, because it's really.
But if not, we really had a great time making it. It really brought the family together in a really fun way, and we just are excited for people to watch it.
And what was the biggest challenge of making that film? Because
making this one,
because you guys have got a little
different.
You got some shrapnel. You got some shrapnel now. You got a little bit of shrapnel on you. You've taken a couple hits along the way. Yep. How did this a little bit bigger budget, slightly bigger budget,
a little bigger than Red 11, a little bigger,
a little bit. So from a producing standpoint and a composing standpoint, how did this biggest challenges you had to overcome?
This one definitely the biggest challenge was dealing with a legacy. Of the originals are so beloved that, and we just love them so much too, that crafting something that has to capture what came before that was always, you put on your gloves to deal with that every single day. Just, okay, and now we're gonna carefully adjust this and that, and make sure feels up to snuff. And so, like, reference of the originals was so key and so important. And, like, in hindsight, there's still little elements that I watch now in the movie and go, gosh, I wish I made that more like this or more like that, because, like, oh, I totally missed that whole side of fun that the originals had, that I only incorporated a little bit. So, like, that definitely is the biggest challenge. But and that haunts you throughout writing, throughout production, through editing, even through visual effects. It's like, no, this has to look the right shape. They're composing.
composing.
Yep.
Composing.
all throughout all of it. That challenge haunts you throughout all of it. But at the end, I'm really happy with how it came together, and how I watch it and I see kids smile sitting next to me and go, okay, you can beat yourself up about, like, I wish you did this and that, but it captures something that's just like the originals, and that makes us smile as kids and makes us smile now as big kids. So
I never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. You guys are the number one fans of this franchise. I mean, and the pressure that puts on you guys as creators, it's kind of like, my parents started this train. I better not derail it. I'm glad I can say this now, not at the beginning of the process. You're like, I can't do this. I can't go down this road.
Especially, how many times this type of stuff hasn't worked out. You're like, the odds are stacked against you for sure. It's definitely
any sequel. The second, third, or fifth always has. You're always, occasionally you get the Terminator 2. Occasionally you get Aliens.
Exactly.
Occasion. And by the way, I actually like Spy Kids 2 more than I like Spy Kids 1 on a story. That's just my personal. I love Spy Kids 1, awesome. But Spy Kids 2, I really remember liking it more. I just liked it more than the first one. So occasionally,
that was my favorite too.
Right. It's like occasionally, but man, I can't imagine that kind of pressure, because from your parents' legacy, from the film's legacy, and also your own love of being part of it since you were so young, must have been, man, how the hell did you make this movie? I'm stressed out and I didn't even make the damn thing.
Sure. I think, definitely the stress and the weight and, like, the pressure of all of that is what counterbalances a lot, is the love and the passion we've had for the series. And it's like, we're like some of the biggest fans. So it's like, we were there the whole time going, it's got to have this, it's got to have that, it's got to have this. We need the vehicles, we need a little robot assistant, because you can't go without that. I mean, that's all I wanted as a kid. It was a stinking robot assistant. I wanted Ralph so badly. It needs this, it needs that. I mean,
I still need Ralph, sir. I still need Ralph.
Yeah. If you told me I could buy one, I'd probably be looking towards that. Yeah, I would. 100%. Ralph is a necessity. But it's definitely, just as much as it was a huge deal and there was a lot to get done here, it was the passion for it was really what drove us. And it was, it's what made it probably one of my favorite projects we've done, was that we get to do all that again and, be able to add a new twist to it and add new flavors to it. And we have enough under our belt that we are like, we know how we can approach that in the writing and this and that. We kind of put all our heads together and can try to do something new, but still have that same feeling as the originals. So it's really
beautiful. That's beautiful.
I think it came at exactly at the right time when I didn't feel I was ready for it, but I had the passion to, like, if I could do it, this is how I'd do it. And so,
So now moving on real quick, you guys also worked on another little film called Hypnotic. Recently you produced and you composed that. Again, slightly bigger than Red 11.
A little bigger, yeah.
Uncle Ben was the star. Uncle Ben was a star.
That's great.
So, I mean, you guys are taking on bigger and bigger projects now. It's so admirable to see how you guys are taking on this kind of pressure, because you guys could easily, be all honest, no BS aside, you guys could coast comfortably for the rest of your life. But no joke. You could, I could go do this. But you guys are challenging yourselves and pushing yourselves as creators, as filmmakers. And I think that is a legacy of your parents, who are pushing you and throwing you into the deep end. Because when I saw, because I'm like, oh, they did We Are the Heroes. And then when I looked at it, I'm like, they did Hypnotic too. Like that's a big boy movie, serious movie, big boy movie, big girl movie, so when you approached that, like, how did you guys, I mean, it's it's a bigger deal, guys. It's not legacy. It's not legacy. It's not something else. This you're like, okay, we're now in the deep end with Uncle Ben.
Absolutely. Oh man, absolutely. It's as you were saying that as you were saying, you guys are taking on the challenge. The little voice in my head is going, oh, but I love the challenge. And it's like in this moment in this chair, I realized, oh gosh, my parents gave me a bit of their insanity. Yeah. This is that insanity that gets
the programming I talked to you about earlier. This is it's very subtle. These two. Very subtle, these two.
They flipped it around. The pressure and challenge that nobody wants, they've made us like crave it and desire it and go after it as a day job.
Makes me more excited. But that's really us kind of thinking that, I mean, you become unbreakable in that regard. The more challenge you get, the more excited you are about it. It's like the passion can completely outgun the amount of pressure you have. And really, that's what generates the ideas. If you're not passionate for it, if you just feel like you're going to get steamrolled, nothing's going to come to you at all. But if you got that Rocky kind of mentality to it, where it's like, there's no way, you just got to go the distance and give it everything you've got. You start coming up with stuff. The passion kind of drives it. And that's where you start to get the inspiration and the impetus to kind of start making something. And
And talk about a challenge that makes you feel unbreakable with Hypnotic. It's like, this is a serious thriller. We have a major great actor attached to this.
Oh, and also an Oscar winner and a great director in his own right. A fantastic director.
Absolute fantastic director. Yeah, exactly. On top of that, it was 2020. It was 2020 and 2021. We made this during a little something called the pandemic. The
pressure. Oh my god! You guys are insane. Insane. Wow.
This project fell apart because of COVID twice. Each time shrinking the budget as it went because this film was pre-sold. So all the budget that you have is all the budget you got. And twice we almost got it started. Once in California, once in Canada, but both times it fell through. And so we finally found a way to bring it over to a little home called Austin and pulled out, well, believe it or not, pulled out a lot of our Red 11 tricks on this one. A good amount of the movie is shot in the exact same office studio as Red 11. We're like, how can we use more of our own studio for this film? And just
the fact that it's another thriller and it's got psychological aspects to it. It's literally, we kept calling it, it's like the spiritual successor of like Red 11. Like Red 11 had a desperado. It was weird. Like Mariachi had a desperado. It's really strange how that happened. Where
That's
like,
remarkable.
So much of the same kind of DNA that made that was kind of had to put this out of necessity, but it made them it feel almost like they're linked spiritually a little bit. In a weird sort of way.
It took all sides to do it. We're like, okay, well, this is just a normal office, but Rebel, with your incredible music that you've just learned how to compose, we're going to make this feel great and psychological and epic and moving and dramatic, even though he's just walking through our same boring gray hall that we have in our studio.
No pressure at all, boys.
No pressure at all.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was really fun to, move on to something like that. That's, as you said, big boy, big girl movie. And tackle it with all the same tool set that we've learned up to this point and gain new ones along the way.
So I have to ask you guys this question. What is the biggest, if you can bring it down to one thing, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from your dad?
Biggest lesson I've learned from my dad.
Filmmaking or life. It's up to you.
That's kind of the thing with him. It's almost like the Kung Fu masters. You don't realize he's teaching you how to throw a punch, but he's also teaching you how to pay your mortgage or how to have a successful relationship or anything like that. I always tell him this one is my favorite, and he taught me one day. I think I was upset about something when I was 5 or 6, and he grabbed, visuals are good for parents. He grabbed a cup of water, filled about halfway, and it's a lesson we've all heard, but it just sticks with you. He filled about halfway and he said, look at this cup of water. You can look at it. You can either see it as half full or half empty. What is it to you right now? And I said, it's half empty. Like there's only half water there. And he said, you just use a negative mindset. To me, I see a lot of potential in the little water that's in there. That's half full. I've got so much water to work with. I've got half full cup of water. That's incredible. And he said, that is positive thinking. With that, I can conquer anything. With believing I've got so much greatness in this little half full cup of water, I've got so much I can do. And he taught me that. I didn't tell him till probably like a decade later, 17, that was the most important thing he ever taught me. And he went, I don't remember teaching you that. Really? Did I say that?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
I was like, what? Well, teach me. What did you get from it? But that absolutely, it's filmmaking, it's life, it's everything. That kind of thinking, pressure and challenges don't turn into opportunity unless you can look at it in a positive way. So like everything, I couldn't have learned anything I've learned either from them or from these projects that they've blessed us by putting us on and challenging us with, unless I had that. So I'd definitely say it's that one.
Probably one of the most foundational lessons that everything else builds on. It's like, if you have that, a lot of things can fall into place. It's
It was the same for you. It was the same for you.
Yeah, pretty much. That one's that's the one that's really, it's continued to mean more the more I grew up. It's like, wow, that was really it. And I think the other one is his main one, that no matter how prepared you think you are, you're always everything's going to fall apart. He said, as much as knowing is half the battle, the other half of the battle is not knowing. And so it's just, there's kind of this eternal, you're never going to have the whole battle, basically. It's just always, you got to meet it the rest of the way. But definitely between those two, that's kind of been what's always driven us, because it's really powerful. It allows you to turn a monumental amount of pressure and problems into a monumental amount of potential. And for creativity, potential and passion is what makes it grow. So you just, beautiful. When you got nothing, you at least got your mind and like a piece of paper and some ideas. So that takes no budget, but that's what the best movies are made out of. It's all throughout it is that fabric. So
if I may be able to quote Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance?
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, that's great.
So and on the other side of that coin of your growth is your mother, and the lessons that she taught me. She's a remarkable producer, and holds the entire place for, when your parents worked together early in their careers. She held the space for him to be insane.
Absolutely.
Without question, right? Yeah. So, and on Spy Kids, on this one as well, she held the space so everyone could be insane. What lesson, if you could hold down to one, what is the lesson that your mother has taught you, from not only on the filmmaking side but on the life side as well? Because I adore your mom. I adore her. She's amazing. But as a producer, I respect her so much, because what she doesn't get a lot of limelight for. No. And producers, Razor, you producers, who, what?
Who cares? Who?
It's about Uncle Ben and Robert. Yeah, it's like
when you know about them is usually because they were a huge problem. That's when you know about. That's when you recognize them.
Then you're like, oh, that producer. Oh, okay, exactly. All right,
definitely.
Where were in the Hollywood Hills? But so that ability to hold space, to protect your creators, to hold a set, to build a set. What advice? What lesson did you learn from her on that aspect, and also in life in general?
Yeah, for her it's the same thing. Filmmaking and life, you kind of learn one rule that applies to everything. And with her, it was that you adore her. Everybody who's worked with her loves her. Everyone. And it's everybody. And so much that on this new Spy Kids, we got to work together again. And so I was producing and she was producing, and I watched how much she's a mother on set and in production and in post, and seeing how much, as much as we talk about the myth of a guy went and did it all by himself, no money, none of this, all by himself, went and got it. There are so many people in the background that led to something like that. And it's so important to remember that all of them are family too. They're just as much stewards of this creation as you, the lone maverick, are. And they deserve all the love and all the respect and all the kindness you can give them, to where they feel safe and that they can explore and that they can be creative and be insane. So that sane foundation that allows them to grow and flourish, that's what she taught me. I see so many, I'm studying the secrets of so many other films and TV shows that I love. And I do some digging and find people saying, "Oh my gosh, the production was lovely because like there was this one person who took care of all of us." And I go, "Oh, they had an Elizabeth Avellán." And I read another one. "Oh, they had an Elizabeth Avellán." Yep. "Oh, they had an Elizabeth Avellán." I believe it. So that would definitely be the biggest one.
Yeah, she always kind of mentions it offhand because she's, raised 5 kids and all in quick succession while also making movies. And she always says it took a village to raise kids. I mean, it takes a whole team. But you hear her always say that it takes a village. I always catch her saying it on set too. And it's like, it's true. It takes a village to make a movie too. And it takes everyone being there. It's a whole team, and it's all of us working together well and having a space where we can all be creative and bring our best to it. That really is what makes it, That's kind of what she does. She sets the space for the magic to happen. And yeah, it's
and the insanity.
And the insanity. Exactly.
And the insanity. Oh, don't get it twisted. Your mom's crazy too. I mean, she's got it too. No.
She's got it too.
They all got it. Different flavors, but there's an insanity to all of this. Lovely insanity, but an insanity to all of it.
Absolutely.
Now, guys, I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Ask all of my guests.
Oh, please.
What advice would you give a filmmaker or screenwriter starting in the business today, or trying to break into the business today? Don't say make El Mariachi because I'll hit you. Someone asked that to Quentin at like Comic-Con or something like that. Yeah. You know what he said? Make Reservoir Dogs. That's the only way I know how to do it. And I'm like, son of a man.
Come on, if only it was that easy, man. It's
just write Reservoir Dogs, then do Pulp Fiction. I mean, that's it. That's the way I did
it. Absolutely. That's like, you just go like that. It's linear. You just build
it's
up.
Simple. Super simple.
For me, it'd definitely be,
you go.
There's the if you want to make films and you haven't made a feature yet, absolutely make a feature. And most importantly, put restrictions on it. Put time restrictions, put deadlines, put physical restrictions of what you can use, what you got. I'm not telling you to go make El Mariachi, I promise. Don't hit me, Alex. As much as we talk about the importance of creativity and flourishing that and harnessing that, the dual side of that is you got to have your pants on fire a little bit. You got to channel that insanity. You got to be a little bit crazy so that it gets done. Because I say you're not a filmmaker until someone is sitting somewhere. It can be a couch at your house. It can be in a theater if you're that lucky, or a screening room of some kind if you make it that far. But you're not a filmmaker until the end credits are rolling and people around you have watched a full film you've made. In that moment, you're a filmmaker. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, whether they're running out of the theaters to go grab pitchforks and come chase after you, or if they're laughing their butts out harder than they laughed ever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you do that whole rep. It's like doing half a push-up and expecting that you've done one. You can't. Filmmaking, it takes a long time to do a single push-up, and you got to get all the way to that moment for it to fully count. So that's what I would suggest.
Beautifully said, sir. I will not be hitting you. Rebel, now it's your turn. You're still on the block. Go ahead.
Adding to that. Yeah. So that's the first thing we've learned. I've never learned more in my life than I have when there was a deadline, when you've got the pressure. That's when, I don't know, I think it turns into kind of fight or flight. That's when you feel like, okay, we got to move. Something has to be done by now. Even if you made up the deadline, something has to be done now. But my own one is, I think the most important thing too is if you're, you want to get into the business, you have these ideas, because again, like you said, we're all geniuses. We have this incredible thing in our head. Just start, make something. I don't care what it is. Start. Don't go and wait till you've got, Terminator, or till you've got Avatar and you've written the whole thing and you can create this monstrosity. Make something. It doesn't have to be very big, but at least start doing it and do a whole rep, even if it's a little one. Do one. Show people. Now you officially made a movie. So most people never even start. They're like, I want to do it, but I need blank. I have this. I haven't done this. I don't have that. You don't need anything. Just start and you will pick up the pieces that you need along the way. And at least then you've started doing it, which most people don't even get there. So just by showing up the first day, you've started the process. Now you'll get momentum. If you're standing around waiting for inspiration or momentum, it's not going to happen. So you gotta.
I feel like there's like a spirit of Robert in the room now, like, and he's like channeled through you two at the moment because it sounds so beautiful. And both of you guys said it's absolutely right. And where were you guys like 15 years ago for me? Because I wish I would have heard this 15 years ago. All I did was throw obstacles in front of myself.
Right.
And that's what a lot of filmmakers do. They're like, oh, I can't do it until I have this camera. I can't do it until this person's there. I can't do it until I have this location. And it's excuses because they're either scared or have some trauma like I did, which is a whole other story, or other stuff like that stops you from going forward until you finally get to the place where you're like, screw it, I'm going to go to Sundance and make a movie.
Right,
Yes,
right, for sure.
exactly.
Absolutely.
You had the time of your life doing it. And as a result,
my God.
I'm sure it came out. I'm sure you could feel the vibrancy in it as a result. If it, with what you came out with, it's got this energy to it because you were excited. You drove it. It's just the fact they said, screw it, we're going to make a movie. There you go. You started. You're doing something now. Even if it's with your phone, you're going around and doing something at least. And that's the big difference. It's really
very powerful. It's really a powerful idea to just get going and get started. But I think the one thing that's missing from this little bit is the attachment to what happens to it. The attachment to, I have to make this. That was the biggest thing. Like, and El Mariachi was the best and the worst thing that ever happened to a whole generation of filmmakers, as was Clerks, as was Slackers, all of those of that generation. Is like, when I make my first film, it has to be Reservoir Dogs.
Right.
It has to be Mariachi. It's got to be Clerks. And that pressure, you're just destroying yourself before you even get off you can't walk with that kind of weight on you. Yeah,
exactly.
And you learned early on that you don't have to do that because I mean, I imagine that as filmmakers, the pressure that was on you guys, I mean, we talked a little bit about on Spy Kids too, but you've got two very large shadows but you're like, screw it. I'm doing me and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. They did what they did. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And it took me to just say, I'm 40. I gotta. I mean, what am I gonna wake up tomorrow? I'm gonna be 60. I'm gonna still do with this BS. I gotta make something. And I'd been directing for 20 years, but I hadn't made the feature yet. And that was the thing. So then once you make the one, it's good, bad, and different. Doesn't matter. You're like, okay, I proved to myself I can make one. Great. And now I can move forward. And it doesn't have to be Reservoir Dogs. Because no one's going to make Reservoir Dogs. No one ever will make Clerks or Reservoir Dogs, Brothers McMullen, Boys in the Hood. No one's going to make those movies again, ever. So once you get that out of your head, then it frees you to be the creative forces that you two are now. So
thank you.
That is the other aspect.
That is the missing key of the triumvirate right there. I absolutely agree.
If there was a worst day you've ever been on a production, what was that day and how did you overcome it?
Oh, that's a good one. Ooh. Let's see. I gave the raining on our climax story. Gosh, what's another? I know there's one on Spy Kids. Let's see.
I assume, Rebel, when you're composing, I mean, a hard drive might have crashed here and there, or you get blocked from.
It's almost always mental. It's almost always mental. And it almost happens on every single one of them. I'm gonna say, and that's another thing I'll point out in a second. But yeah, it was Heroes. This was the first time it really hit. It was We Can Be Heroes. I wrote that entire score. It was like a blessing and a curse. I wrote the huge battle sequence where the parents fight the aliens and all that. I wrote that. That was one of the first things I wrote for that. That was like after almost a year of learning orchestral music. I'd never written for an orchestra. So I was spending a year writing pretty much garbage. I hit that and I was like, that's great. And Robert was like, well, the good news is that's really great music. That's incredible. I could never write at that level. The bad news is I can't help you on this anymore. You got to do the whole movie yourself. So he's like, I'm not going to help you because
you have now surpassed the master. You have surpassed the master. I can't help you anymore. Yeah. Good luck.
He's like, it's not going to sound the same.
Exactly.
It's just suerte. Get in there.
Wow.
Right? So
buena suerte. Vaya con Dios.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was 4 months of music. I composed for 4 months on that one. And it's like 85, 90 minutes of music. All orchestral.
A lot of music, brother.
An hour and a half of music.
Yeah.
And
a lot of music.
I was halfway through. It was like 2.5 months. I think it was actually more than halfway. 2.5 months in. And I had written 1/3 of it, going as fast as I could go. Wow. And that's when it dawns on you, I don't think I'm gonna make it, dude. And it's all mental. You're just up all night, just sitting there going, dude, it's done for. I'm gonna sink this whole movie.
Oh yeah, you start going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
you start. You're circling the drain.
Guy.
You're circling the drain.
Yeah, the whole movie's been made. Everyone's done their things. High fives. You saw everyone was so excited when set was over. We did it. It's amazing. Edited. It's all coming together. You're the last guy there. I mean, you're just like, they're all like, all right, make the last leap. You know, you're right there, and it's like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And I don't know, something clicks there where you go into overdrive. It's one of the scariest kinds of things, because the way I say it is, the more ideas you create, the more impetus you're going to get on the project, because you're kind of figuring it out, like the puzzle piece of what's the style of it, what's this, what's that. Just keep making. Don't stop. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, don't judge it. Just keep making stuff, because you're going to have more to work with. And so you start a movie, at least a score, and it's halfway through and you haven't made half. You've made like a third, maybe even less, but it almost like multiplies until by the end you're writing like 10 times faster than you were at the beginning, because you've just figured out more of the movie. So it always feels like you're down to the wire pretty much. But that was the first time I ever experienced it. And there's always that moment where it dawns on you. It's like Rocky, where he's like, I can't do this. You know, I'm just going to go the distance. It's one of, if it could either break you or it can make you. Definitely. It's one of those moments where you either quit and say, I can't do it, man. You're going to have to hire someone else, or you just drive through and
you what's
barely make it by the skin of your teeth. It's
you know what's fascinating is like I've done, I don't know, 1,000 episodes at this point. I've had composers on before, but I've never had a composer at your level that's able to do these large movies, or have the opportunity to do these large movies. And this relay race pressure, because you're the last leg of the race.
Yeah.
And if you fumble the damn baton, it's all over. No matter how fast the other guys were, you're done. That pressure is something I've never really thought about for a composer, because a lot of the composers I've talked to, like, Oscar winners are big guys who've done this 1,000 times. But you're just like, I've never talked to them about like the beginning aspects of their career. Just like, I was on a $70 million movie and I was just like, I didn't think I was going to make it. And I had no one around me to help. Like, I'm alone. Vaya con suerte. Like,
exactly. That's it. So
that's really remarkable.
I'm here today. I survived somehow. It's a blur, but it happens. And it's going to happen every single movie. That's all I've found. I come back. You think, oh, you're on top of the world. That's it. No, it's like Rocky. He comes back. He can't do it again. You got to start from scratch again. You're like, I don't think I can do this one. Because this and that. Oh, this one's Hypnotic. It's got Ben Affleck. We don't have an orchestra. They carried it away. I mean, they do amazing work. You write this stuff, you give it to them, they make it sound incredible. It's all on me. What comes out of my computer is what's gonna be on the movie. And it's like, I don't know if I can do this again. And it's like you get in your head and it's over. So it's every single time I've hit it. It's just
that's beautiful, because it's like am I gonna have to go down to the dungeon of Apollo and train again? Like, am I like, it's like, because I just can't. Obviously, Mr. T is too much for me. I don't think I'm gonna make it. I think I've been broken, and now I have to come back. So it's similar. So your Mr. T was like, "This is Ben Affleck, man. This is a movie, and I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do, man."
That glass of water better be half full, man, because it's the only thing you got. Oh my gosh,
that's remarkable. Well, that's great, man. Thank you for that story. I've just never really thought about that aspect of I've been in post most of my life, so I've always been at the end, and I always figure it out, and I always post it, and I've been post supervisor, VFX, all that kind of stuff. So I always just figure it out along the way. But mine's is technical on that sense. Maybe the creative with editing and stuff, but I'm not alone a lot of times. I have either a producer or you're out there in an island by yourself, and there's just a phone call. Oye, ¿dónde está la música?
Basically. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's pretty incredible.
So, Racer, how about you, my friend?
I'll just tack on to what he said, because it's excellent. There's really been fortunate. We haven't had really anything bad. We've had things explode. We've had sick. We had everything that could be considered bad, but it's like, it's never been really that bad, because you just do what Rebel said there.
Movie set standards. happens all the time. And
all the time. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Whether it's, oh God, the wind is kicking up so high on our hypnotic finale that none of the actors can see because sand is blowing in their eyes. So we got to close out this finale as quick as we can and make it emotional somehow, because we're at a dry river basin in COVID and we can't go anywhere else. Or it's like, oh gosh, it's 105 degrees outside and our little actor star is just not having this heat. He is having a horrible time and he's got to deliver some lines right now, unless we can cut him cleverly do this. I'll do a little drawing and I'll show you we can fix this. So as Rebel said, you start getting your head. The most important thing you can do is get out of your head quickly, start making it tangible, start making tangible solutions, no matter what it is, whether it's the boat sinking, vehicle's gone, actor can't make it. You have to rewrite the entire scene. Just start drawing, start writing, start talking to everybody that's there to help you and figure it out. Get out of your head quickly.
Beautiful, beautiful advice, guys. Now, if you had a chance to go back in time and talk to Little Rebel and Little Racer, what advice would you give them?
That's funny. Yeah, I've actually had one of those. Yeah.
Do you have a time machine, dude? Seriously, can I borrow it? Like, I have a lot.
There's a lot I can fix.
There's a lot of stuff I need to work on.
Yeah. I actually, on Spy Kids, I had this one. Actually, we were in London and recording we were there for the orchestra to record it live, because the whole thing's live recorded. And it was up there that I wrote it down, and I was telling the racer, we always just talk ideas about this kind of stuff. And it's just, I told him, I think I finally have something I would have like gone back a few years and wish I told myself, like really, really, like, man, I wish I knew this 5 years ago, man. But it's an interesting kind of trap you fall into, because you're doing what you love. It's not what you really expect. I loved making music. I mean, it was like everything to me. I was just out of school. Now you've got all the time, all the time you could possibly think of. You got a part-time job or whatever. You've got so much time, as opposed to when I was in school. And it's like you're squeezing out whatever little bit you got that isn't school time. And I think the worst thing you can do is be so passionate about it that you put all of your time into it and are willing to put in an unbelievable amount of hours into it constantly, and do every last little touch and try to make the most perfect thing you can make. Because it's not at all how reality works. Honestly, it's almost like you need, and it's like, it was always weird. I'd make things and I would just get so into the details and almost lost in the details, to where you're not really doing the broad strokes well and all that kind of stuff. Because I had so much time. It's like, oh, well, I can sit here and do this all day and, mess with every little note I write and all that kind of stuff. It's actually counterintuitive. It teaches you all the wrong ways to do things. In a weird way, I'd watch my dad work, and Robert just has kind of this thing of like, well, I've only got this many hours. Let's just hit it and let's do it. And he just dives right in. And he's making broad strokes pretty much, but you see how he's not afraid to make mistakes. He's not afraid to make something that it doesn't seem like it's perfect to him. And it's almost like when he's mostly focusing on those broader strokes, he gets a better result from it. It's almost like a bold, I called it line confidence. When you're an artist and you draw, if you're just trying to make every like line really perfect, they actually end up kind of scribbly. If you've seen a great artist, they're just like nothing. I mean, it's just like they're just throwing them out there. And you watch Robert, he does the same thing. I went up and we got to work with John Debney on this again, who did the music for Spy Kids 2. He helped Spy Kids 1, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he kind of helped birth the Spy Kids sound, but I watched him compose. I like never gotten to see like a professional composer actually in the midst of writing. And he's just like, all this stuff I had like put all this time and attention to detail to, oh, I do this because I have all this time. He's just like glancing over it. Like, and what he's focusing on is so different than what I was focusing on, because he doesn't have time. He doesn't put a lot of time into it. He's like, well, in 1 hour, I got to get the scene done. Swish, swash, does all that. And versus me, I could put all the time in the world I want in this. And you focus on all the wrong things. It teaches you to not look at the right things. If you give yourself a little time, this kind of goes into the deadline thing. You actually focus on what's the most important thing that'll make the most impact. And that's where you start to make some real progress. So it was once I've started to do that, I really started, after I watched him write like that, I was like, oh, that's how you write. All my music was, literally like leaps and bounds improved. So
I mean, the old guys have a couple of tricks. I'm gonna say
They really
us
do.
old guys
Old man
have
strength.
a couple.
And it's
Old
like-
man strength,
Yeah,
baby.
exactly. And it's weird. It's like so counterintuitive because you're like, I'm so passionate about this. How could I just now be so apathetic towards it? And it's like, it's not apathy so much as it's like, you have to learn how to just let it flow. You got to have that confidence in your strokes and just, move with it. And it's almost more important to put more ideas out there rather than barely squeeze out one because you finally thought it was perfect. Get out of your head, throw down too many. It's way better to have too much stuff. I mean, he would just overdo it. He'd put in too much and go, that was too much. And he'd back it off. At least now you found out where the ledge was. If you kept tiptoeing forward, blindfolded, you never know where that ledge is.
And take you forever to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was really, really important. So.
Great. Another good answer, sir. Razor?
First off, I would take the entire recording of this podcast and just play it to a 17-year-old racer. You're going to listen to this. You're going to memorize every single word that is said here by all three of these people talking right now. Start with that. That's book one.
Appreciate that.
Book two. You're out of high school now, little 18-year-old racer. Okay, you're going to take a whole year off. You're going to take a gap year. What you're going to do is you're going to make a feature. You have 1 year to do it. I don't care how you do it, but it's got to be done in 1 year, and I dare you to make it good. You can't be good and go over time. You have to try to strive for some level of greatness, and you have to finish it. It has to be done by the end of this. And put some of your time into it, as Rebel said. Don't put all 16 hours of your day into it. Give yourself a work day, 8 hours, 6 hours, whatever you can manage. Then go take time for family, for friends, all of that stuff, because that's important too. You got to take care of all the other sides of your life because now you're dealing with adult things too. And make that happen. That'll teach you more than anything combined. And of course, most important thing, make it with what you got. Because with 1 year, no money, there's nothing you can get for that. So do it with what you've got. That's what I would say.
And finally, the last question, and arguably the most difficult one I've asked in this entire conversation.
Oh, wow.
Each of you, 3 of your favorite films of all time.
Actually, I always keep my list ready.
By the way, everyone who's just listening to this, Rebel just grabbed his phone. Was like, okay, let me just pull out my list. And...
I actually just did this. Yeah,
that's great. Go ahead, guys.
I keep my top 5 on hand. So I've got Excalibur, 1981, John Borman's. That's my top of the top favorite. Absolutely. Beautiful. It has everything I love. When you see the new Spy Kids, you might see some influence.
Fair enough.
But absolutely love it. Number 2, The Incredibles. Classic Pixar. Talk about VHSs you would watch on infinite repeat. That was the first time where I watched a movie all the way to the end. Went through the end credits because they're incredible, the music and everything. Michael Giacchino just killing it. And I watched it all and I just hit reset. And I went, I think this is one of my favorite movies. This is the only one I've ever done this on. And then number 3 is Old Boy. Absolutely love the style from the early 2000s. It's got a style that all my favorite video games and TV shows had at the time. That's like this Y2K dark futurism. Absolutely love it. So those are my top 3.
The great top 3, and I just tell you a geek story real quick. I was
please.
at Sundance at a midnight screening of Old Boy in the U.S. premiere of Old Boy. While the director was there, he'd just flown in from Japan.
Wow!
And I met him, and he was like half asleep because the poor guy just flew over from Japan. And I remember seeing Old Boy at Sundance at the main theater there, the Egyptian, and I'm like, what did I just watch? Like it was like, what insanity is this? It was one of those moments I'll never forget. I
believe it. At a midnight screening.
At a midnight screening at Sundance with the director just flying in from Japan. Like he hadn't gotten there yet when the movie started. He was there at the end for a Q&A, and then I met him outside. Outside, everyone was gone already. I'm like, so how are you? He's like, and his interpreter was there, and it was like,
great.
That's so cool, dude.
That's amazing. Oh my God. Envious.
Sorry,
that's amazing.
Had to throw that little geek story out there. I got a few geek stories along the way, but that's one of the benefits of being an old man.
For more. You get a lot of cool stories, that's for sure. That's awesome.
Rebel, how about you? How's your top 3?
All of his 3 are also my favorites, but I pulled out some extra other ones as well. We love those, but definitely one of my top favorite animated at the moment right now, Across the Spider-Verse. That was I absolutely loved it. That was
So
incredible.
beautiful.
I mean, it's changing the game of animated. We love Incredibles, but it's really cool to see something now that's like, shoot, that's like another Incredibles to some degree. Like, and it's
a whole other level. It's like when I watched that, I was like,
I mean,
what is going on?
It's really impressive.
Absolutely.
Amadeus, that's a classic. I love that one a lot, and now I love it more because I make music. The more I've learned, the more I appreciate it.
That laugh.
Oh, that's so yeah.
Oh my god!
Like the more you learn about music, the more you're just like, it's crazy. They captured like the genius of it so well. I mean, it's just it's so
a masterpiece.
Great. I mean,
masterpiece.
It's really that one's just fantastic. And then Tide, either Jaws. That's another classic. Always loved that one. Music on that one's great. I've always been a big fan of that. Been playing it on piano since I was like, however young I was. Our dad introduced us to the Jaws theme, and we didn't know what the movie was, so I was just there. Dun 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 dun. He played the music in the car, and he was like, "You'll see it someday." And it's like, that was it. That's all I knew. But and What's Up, Doc? I love that comedy.
Wow, nice.
That's great.
Nice.
Great comedy.
Great comedy.
So great.
So I noticed your dad didn't make the list, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure his ego will be fine with that. I'm joking. I would have been like, Sin City.
Yeah, right.
Like, guys, seriously, dude, seriously. He drank the Kool-Aid. So I'm glad that you did not put any of your father's films up there.
He's got a special list. It's like it almost doesn't count because like
let me ask you this. What is your favorite dad film?
You go first, Rebel. Just to make sure I don't pick the same one.
No, you go for it because I know we're gonna pick the same one. I'll pick a different one.
Okay.
Top three Robert films in your world.
Cool. Number one, Road Racers, his second film.
Yes, of course.
So great, incredible. I love the rebel spirit of it. So good. Then for me next, it's Desperado. I just love what he did with El Mariachi, and just like complete spiritual successor that just blew even more heads than the first one. Incredible. And then Spy Kids 2, honorable mention, my absolute favorite of the Spy Kids. So I love the fantasy and the creatures and the fun, and they have the best outfits in that movie.
How about you?
Road Racers is a very big favorite of ours. Sin City, though, is another one. Definitely. I loved watching that one. He always puts off showing us his movies. We just wait till he wants to show it to us. That one we watched like at midnight practically. We finished. It was like 2 a.m. and he was like, "Hey, let's make the breakfast tacos from the 5-minute cookie school, 10-minute cookies." We made those, ate them at like 3 a.m. Oh, we
just so we could ask some questions.
And but that's super memorable for me. And then definitely El Mariachi as well, and Desperado. So those are just.
If I may throw mine into the ring.
Go for it. I'd love to hear. Yeah.
I think Desperado was because I was in film school when Desperado came out. I saw it in the theater. And I had that poster in my room at dorm or whatever. With Uncle Antonio. And that gun that was just amazing. That double barrel, like a double barrel shotgun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Shotgun, yeah.
I'm gonna say Desperado because that was the one that really hit me. Sin City. Without question. Absolutely. You look at Sin City, you're just like, I don't even know, man.
I don't even know. So great.
And believe it or not, one of the other films that I really loved of his is Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Oh, it's classic. It's excellent.
Because Once Upon a Time in Mexico, for me, was the film that got me off to make my first big short film that went on and did insane things for me, and I had Roger Ebert review it, and it was a whole thing back in the day.
That's awesome.
But it all started with Once Upon a Time in Mexico. When I saw the guacamole gun.
Right, that was my task.
I saw the guacamole gun, and I saw that, and I was like, I think I could do this now. Like it was like there was so much
for sure
obstacles that you put in your head, but that was the movie that just kind of pushed me over. So it has a special place in my heart. For that was the movie that kind of launched my filmmaking side, not the commercial or music video side that I've been doing, but more the filmmaking side. That was the film that kind of did it for me. So those are my top three.
That's classic. Wow, that's awesome. That's great. I love those picks. Yeah. There's just so much to choose from. It's just all great.
Oh no!
Again, they're their own. That's their own category. You can't even put them in a top
exactly. Boys, I truly appreciate this conversation, man. It has been such a pleasure and honor talking to both of you. Your energy is infectious. I want to go make a feature now. I don't know why.
All right.
But I'm going to go shoot something. I don't know when, but I'm going to
figure it out.
Just figure it out. Just go. No, your energy is infectious. And this has just been such a pleasure of a conversation. And I agree with you, Racer. I think that filmmakers will get a whole lot out of this conversation. There's a lot of gems in this. And I hope it helps people around the world kind of maybe demystify a little bit of the myth and really get into the weeds of how you actually make these films and actually do this kind of process, the mariachi process, if you will, without the myth as much overheading, because you guys kind of cut through the myth really quickly and like, no, we don't know. And this, I don't know. And so it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you guys so much. Oh, by the way, where can people watch Spy Kids?
Spy Kids will be on Netflix coming at the end of September, very soon, very, very soon. Yeah, very excited. Please, if you're a fan, if you've grown up, if you have kids, please, I would love for you to see it. And even if you've never heard of Spy Kids, go check them all out. They're all excellent, classic films. And do you guys have any parting messages for any young racer or young rebel out there who's thinking about getting into this insanity, carnival, circus, ridiculous business that we're all in? Any parting messages for them? Absolutely. Please jump in, whether you want to do animated or live action or shows or whatnot. Please jump in, because stories and films, stories are one of the methods that humans get truth from the world. And I want to see the truths that you can put into the world and teach all of us about. And you're never going to make a Mariachi or Reservoir Dogs or Clerks or any of those, but I don't want to see that from you. I want to see your film. I want to see what you can make. Rebel? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, shoot, let me think about that for a bit. Well, while you're thinking about that, I do have to say something. This is kind of the elephant in the room. You guys both have the greatest names ever. I know it wasn't your mom. I know it wasn't your mom. Your mom just allowed it. But because I'll be honest with you, I started a propaganda campaign with my wife when I was going to have kids. I'm like, if I have a boy, he has to be Max Ferrari. Come on, Ferrari has to be. Dude. That's so Max cool. Ferrari, but yet but luckily I had girls. So, but it would have been. I would have had a fight. It would have Maximus. The world was spared of a Max Ferrari. A Max Ferrari. Another generation. Can you imagine awesome. Max Ferrari? That would have been amazing. That's too. You can't pass that up. Believe it or not, little mom's insanity. Racer Max was chosen because my mom had a crush on Racer X when she used to watch Speed Racer. Oh, so, yeah. Really? Yep. So she came up with the name first, or Dad came up with it. They both thought Racer would be fun after Rocket, and then Rebel was going to be my name too. But I was like, it's not a Rebel. I think this is a Racer, and came up with the middle name with Tia Salma of all people. Racer, like I said, Maximiliano. Insane. Local. Insane. Yep. Todo loco. All of them. The whole clan. All of your nuts. Anything you want to add, Racer? No pressure. Yeah. So I think definitely, if you're gonna dive in, like Racer said, do so. It's amazing. It's creative work is one of the most gratifying kinds of things ever. I mean, nothing opens your mind more like creativity. But definitely learn to love the process and all that it is. It's all the good, all the bad, all the crazy days. Learn to see it half full, learn to enjoy all of it, because no matter how big and famous you get or how much you stay right where you are, it's all going to be the same the whole time. There's just more money, so there's more people and there's more problems. There's more of the same thing. So enjoy and love the process for what it is and how gratifying it can be, and exciting that, you don't always know what's going to come your way. So definitely learn to love the process. So like P. Diddy says, more money, more problems. I understand. That's what I got out of that. That's what I got. Guys, again, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show, and continue the next generation of Rodriguez insanity. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you, man. So much, Alex. Thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.